Hello everyone, and welcome to the 11th episode of Thoughts from the Couch. I'm Tim.
I'm Tarun.
And I'm Krishna.
In this week's video, we'll be discussing the arrival of Sigma, Overwatch's latest hero, and going over the full reveal trailer for Need for Speed Heat, the newly announced next entry in the Need for Speed franchise.
We'll also be discussing reports of a new Star Wars series starring Ewan McGregor and going through the math for the latest controversial cosmetic to be added to Apex Legends. Let's get started.
Blizzard Entertainment's hit online game Overwatch has finally received its 31st hero. With an update earlier this week, Blizzard has brought Sigma, an eccentric astrophysicist with gravity-based abilities, to players on PC and consoles, adding another tank to the game's roster of characters. Sigma was first introduced to fans last month and was added to the game's PC-only public test server on the 23rd of July.
The patch earlier this week also introduced Role Queue to the game's matchmaking. A beta version of Role Queue is now being tested in the game's competitive play mode. A number of buffs, nerfs, and adjustments, including a substantial rework of Brigato, have also been introduced. So thoughts?
Guilty. Have not actually played a Sigma yet, so gasp.
Did you try him on training mode at least?
I have not tried him at all.
What?
Oh, okay. Well, I thought his abilities were interesting. I liked what do you call it? I need to go back and see what it was. I liked one of his abilities. I'll say that. I'll come back later and tell you what it was.
I mean, yeah, I do mean to go out and try him at some point. Right now, it's not exactly you can kind of, he's not like open to be chosen on ordinary matches because everybody's trying to play him.
For me, I have got plenty of chances to play as Sigma. For me, at least, there haven't been a lot of people wanting to play Sigma, but I know there were earlier.
Yeah, the interesting thing about him, he's actually, we know this now that he's like been released. His difficulty to sort of use is rated at 3 stars, which is like, I think the highest level. Tarun, I don't know what your impressions of that are, but is he that hard to use?
For me, obviously there's a learning curve because you got to get used to his abilities.
Well, yeah, but there's going to be a learning curve for every character, I guess.
Yeah, of course. But for me, he was surprisingly easy to get a hang of. Like, I would say he's probably one of my new favorite characters to play as, and might play as him for a while.
Yeah, I think he's like, overall, he's a very cool character.
He's surprisingly fun. His projectiles are incredibly strong.
Oh, hey, I liked kinetic grasp. That is the ability I liked. It absorbs projectiles in front of you and converts them into shields. That's a great one.
It's very useful against a lot of DPS characters. I've gotten out of a lot of tight situations with that ability.
Obviously, like we said, Sigma is a tank, and I think given how many sort of like DPS heroes the game currently has, it's good that we have another sort of very tanky character. Like we need that kind of balance in the game, and I think that's good.
Yeah, he can prevent and absorb a lot of damage. I have constantly gotten one of those cards at the end of the game where it shows me absorbing all the damage. Proud tank here.
Proud tank. Once, obviously, we do need to talk about role queue as well. Basically, what's happened in this patch is that role queue, it's not applied to quick play just yet. They're sort of testing it out with competitive play, and they're still going to roll it out with quick play at some point in the future. Going back to Sigma for a minute, I think his what we haven't mentioned yet is his cosmetics. He's actually got some like really cool skins. I think there's one that makes him look like Hannibal Lecter, which is like that's awesome.
Which I got.
Yeah, I mean that looks awesome. I will say this now that I know people made a big thing about his feet being, sort of bare.
You hardly notice it in game.
Yeah, in game, but when you're looking at him in the hero gallery, it's kind of like they've obviously done a very good job with the character. So we do need to talk about the rest of the patch a little bit. So just to go over it very quickly, buffs for Zarya, Symmetra, Tracer, Doomfist, Reinhardt, nerfs for Hanzo, Orisa, Sombra, and adjustments made to Brigitte, Symmetra, and also Wrecking Ball. Now, because I main Brig, that was like the biggest change in this sort of update for me. I think there's been a kind of a mixed reaction to this. I think people are concerned about her shield not being strong enough. Yeah, I agree with that. It's just a bit too weak at the moment. But otherwise, I do like the rework they sort of given her. It makes her into a healer, and that's nice. Because before, you just sort of play as a tank and
yeah, I tried her a bit as well. Yeah, her shield is definitely way weaker.
Which, I hope they do adjust that.
But her whip ability is pretty fast, which is nice.
But I do remember playing her in a recent match, and I did, knock people off edges and stuff like that a lot more often. So that's I do know that one of the changes they made is to her sort of passive. So her passive now doesn't heal her as much, but it heals other characters on your team more. But yeah, right now, as it is right now, the shield is just like pointless because it just melts like instantly. So it's just...
Moving on. Video game company Electronic Arts surprised gamers this week by revealing a new Need for Speed game, which is titled Need for Speed Heat, is the 24th entry in the long-running racing franchise. According to early details, Heat is set in an open world known as Palm City, which, according to the new reveal trailer, appears to be inspired by Florida.
The reveal trailer also teased police chases, branded cars, and car customization as returning features. This is the first Need for Speed game since 2017's Need for Speed Payback, which caught flack for its microtransactions.
According to EA, the game is scheduled to be released on November 8th this year. EA have also stated that the gameplay reveal will take place during Gamescom's opening night on August 19th, which is fast approaching. So, thoughts on the trailer?
I'm excited for it. Obviously, I'm not going to buy it on launch day. I would like to see some gameplay before I make any sort of decision. As for the microtransactions, I'm not too clear on what it's like because I had Payback and I never actually dived into any of it. I don't think it really affected my experience.
What I do remember about, the sort of time when Payback came out was that I know critics didn't like it that much, as in it wasn't a very good game.
It was pretty mediocre in my opinion, but still I had fun with it. It was a good way to pass some time.
Yeah, so sort of after that reaction, it sort of goes under the radar for a lot of people. And I think, the series just sort of disappeared after that for a lot of people.
Yeah, I guess.
So now it's back. I don't know if they've improved it. It's hard to tell from this trailer. I really don't know what to think about this trailer, actually.
Yeah, it's quite a lot going on in this trailer, actually. It's a reveal trailer, to be fair, but there's no clear story. There's just really one flashy piece of dialogue.
Yeah, we did say that before we came on call. We did get the sort of, Fast and Furious vibe from it. At least from, before Fast and Furious was about, helicopters driving across buildings or whatever. When it was actually about street racing, that's kind of the vibe you get.
I don't know how long it's been since Need for Speed has had an actual story in its campaign. I know Payback had it. Before that, I'm not too sure, because before that game, I had Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. And again, it was just a fun car racing game. I don't think there was a really story in it. And what was really cool is that you can play either as a cop car or a racer, and you had a Bugatti car, which is a cop car. And that was really cool and fun because you could always mess around with those sirens. So seeing that they're showing a bit of the police chases in this trailer, I kind of hope that there's a way to even play as like police cars.
That would be fun. I would play as a police car.
Yeah, I would try it out.
They didn't have that in Need for Speed Payback, so I'm kind of iffy on like whether or not they will include that feature or not.
I mean, I do. You're right. I do get the kind of there's a story there kind of, and it's going to be about these street races versus the cops. Like you said, I don't know how long it's been since they had an actual story, but it's not just like a pure racing game like GT or anything like that. This actually is a bit different. Yeah.
There's some action. It's fun racing. Everyone else hopes for something reminiscent of Underground, which is I think their most popular and most beloved installment of the franchise.
To be fair, EA is not very good at just taking what works and then just updating the graphics. If you know what I mean. If you played Star Wars Battlefront or Star Wars Battlefront, you kind of know what I'm talking about.
They'll take what works and then try to see how they can implement microtransactions to milk money out of their consumers.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. You're right.
Speaking of EA, here's something a little different. Respawn Entertainment, the developers of Titanfall and free-to-play battle royale game Apex Legends, have found themselves in some hot water this week. An event known as the Iron Crown Collection is currently running in-game in Apex Legends, featuring a new limited time solos mode, double XP, and a collection of 24 new cosmetics. Now, the reason Respawn are under fire at the moment is because of one particular cosmetic, an axe known as Raven's Bite.
Raven's Bite is a heirloom quality melee weapon, which is the highest quality of cosmetic currently available in Apex. According to various sources, including Kotaku, because of the way the Iron Collection event has been designed, a player seeking to obtain Raven's Bite will have to spend $170 or 136 pounds on microtransactions for in-game currency.
This is largely due to the way the in-game event runs. To obtain Raven's Bite, players are first required to obtain all of the other items introduced during this event, something which isn't possible without making real money purchases. Respawn have also stated that all event items will eventually be introduced to the random loot pool in future, after the event ends. So, A virtual axe worth $170. Thoughts?
It's stupid.
It's bullshit, man.
This is $170 you're spending on it's not even an axe. It's an axe cosmetic. It has no in-game effect.
It's just to show off, hey, look, I spent hours trying to get this, or I spent all my money to get this.
Both seem pathetic.
Hey, my house is a golden plated toilet. That's what it sounds
It's
like.
just not worth it. Because it's not even like the general in-game currency. It's like currency that's specific to the event, right? To get the loot boxes.
Yeah. So I remember like we did try to go through this, and we did sort of read this article by Kotaku, I think, sort of explaining $170 breakdown. And it took us quite a while to sort of like figure out how it worked, because it's like a lot of steps you have to sort of take towards getting this stupid axe. We were just looking at it. You remember this. We were just looking at it and sort of going, this makes absolutely no sense. Who designs a game this way?
Who would spend this much money? Like,
Rich people. Evidently. I mean, we have been saying that we are going to get back into Apex at some point. Like, we are going to try and play it. But, and the silly thing about this is that apparently basically what's going to happen after this event is over is this rare axe, this $170 axe is going to be added to the pool of loot, and you might just get it randomly anyway without, paying no money.
Yeah, so I guess people can just wait until it's in the general loot boxes, but this is still ridiculous that they're trying to get this money out of their consumers.
It's for people to feel special to run.
Well, they won't be soon enough.
There's another thing I do find hilarious about this, and that's sort of like when, this sort of thing came out that this axe costs $170 of real money. The reaction was kind of like, oh, yeah, that's kind of just what they do. Yeah, we kind of expected, it's EA, we kind of expected this, to be fair. Of course, EA also had the exclusive rights to make Star Wars games, and as it turns out, we do have some Star Wars news this week. According to a report by The Hollywood Reporter, renowned actor Ewan McGregor is negotiating with Disney to reprise his role in a Star Wars series for Disney Plus, based on his character Obi-Wan Kenobi.
The status of the project is unclear, with some sources claiming that McGregor has also agreed to sign on to the project, while others simply state that he's still in talks with Disney and Lucasfilm. McGregor was the second actor cast as Obi-Wan, after Alec Guinness first introduced audiences to the character in the original 1977 film, as a wise hermit who rescues and instructs Mark Hamill's Luke Skywalker in the ways of the Force.
According to rumors, a spin-off movie about the character was once slated for production, with McGregor in the lead role. However, after the disappointing reaction to Solo: A Star Wars Story, Lucasfilm executives were rumored to have halted development of all Star Wars story spin-off, including the Obi-Wan film, and another based on the bounty hunter Boba Fett.
Of course, with the Disney D23 Expo starting next weekend, it wouldn't be surprising to see some kind of announcement there, alongside further information about confirmed Star Wars projects, such as The Mandalorian and the prequel series based on Cassian Andor, a character from Rogue One: A Star Wars Story. So, what do we think?
We Star Wars fans have wanted some Obi-Wan related project to come out of Disney.
On the list of like things I want to see from Disney, Star Wars, this is like top of my list.
I think everyone were hoping for like a standalone movie, like a solo Star Wars movie or the rumored Boba Fett movie. But I guess this is kind of a bit better, because now we're getting like what's rumored to be 6 to 8 episodes of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
I was sort of thinking that maybe it wouldn't be like a long running show. It's sort of like a limited series. I know people have sort of said, for a long time, we want Obi-Wan in a movie or a series. I think, as you say, the series actually works better because we get possibly more material from this.
They could make the same mistake that they did with Han Solo, trying to do a movie. So
I think way more people want Obi-Wan compared to Solo.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Right?
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, I think what I saw some people saying was they thought like having him as a series on Disney Plus was kind of a downgrade, because I think the thinking is that because you don't have him on the big screen, you don't have him like part of a film, it's not as a big part of the universe, if that makes sense. But I'm thinking, well, first of all, we get more material from a TV series, it will be longer than a movie will be. It sort of depends, how much do you think like Clone Wars or Rebels or Resistance are not part of the canon? And I think like lots of fans would say, this is part of the canon in the same way the movies are. So, there's no problem with TV.
Disney have already even said anything Star Wars that comes out now will be canon, including the video games.
Let's just go through the confirmed Star Wars stuff we're getting. So we're getting episode 9. We're getting a trilogy from Rian Johnson, who directed The Last Jedi. There's a D&D trilogy.
Boba Fett?
Sort of what happened with the Boba Fett movie is I think they sort of turned it into The Mandalorian, and The Mandalorian is confirmed to be coming to Disney Plus. That will be a TV series. I haven't really seen much of that, and hopefully they'll drop a trailer next week week or something. Yeah, not sure what I think about the Cassian Andor series.
And there was a trailer for Star Wars Resistance Season 2 for anyone who's interested.
Yes, just to update any fans of Star Wars Resistance, this show will be ending with this season, so it's only getting 2 seasons total. So I think Clone Wars got 6 or 7.
It's getting another, right?
Yes, they are. That's right. Yeah, Disney is making a final season for that. Rebels, I'm not sure where Rebels is at right now, but I mean, to be fair, I never really watched anything except Clone Wars, so.
Yeah, alright. Let's move on to our weekly review roundup. This week, we have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Dora and the Lost City of Gold, and I Am Mother. Let's start with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's a nice little film. Actually, not little. It's 3 hours long, so you might want to go to the bathroom first. It's a nice film by Tarantino. Very enjoyable, very funny. Stars some of the most talented actors in the business. Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie.
I was interested to see your review because your review, you actually said that it was actually not bad, not great, which is interesting because I was so thinking this is a Tarantino movie.
In comparison to his other works, this doesn't hold up.
So what you're saying is it's not as good as Pulp Fiction, is what you're saying.
Of course not. So anyway, the story is basically about 2 guys. One is an actor, a middle-aged actor who feels he's being typecast and also that his career might be on the downslide. And his friend, stuntman, who tags along with him and drives him around hoping to find some more stunt work. This is a tale about basically how these guys stick together and help each other out in the changing times that was the 1970s. Yeah.
So if you like Tarantino, go see it, but it's not as good as his other work.
There is violence, so if you like Tarantino violence, there's a little bit of that, but not much. Still enjoyable though. This one's in comparison mostly a character piece. And most scenes are just people talking to each other, but yeah.
Anyways, we do have to talk about Dora, which I went to see alone. Kind of makes you feel a bit weird going alone, especially to a film like Dora. For anyone who doesn't know, though I don't imagine anyone doesn't know about this because it's been translated. The original series has been translated into hundreds of languages, I think. It's a kids movie. There's no getting away from that. But even as an adult guy who has like no children, I didn't suffer in this movie as much as I thought I would.
So you still suffered a little bit?
I think it's unavoidable because, the humor is not really meant for adults. It's meant for kids. And, when I say that, it means like fart jokes, which like for the kids, it's funny. But for adults, it's just like the lowest bar you can set for humor like ever. That is the main thing that sort of keeps it being like a must-see for, adults. Seriously, don't go into it just expecting, super deep plot or anything like that. It's not. But the thing about this movie is it really sort of it knows what it wants to be. It just wants to be a fun, kid-friendly film. It does that really well. Isabella Moner, who plays Dora, she is actually excellent. She's playing like an aged-up version of Dora, which, if you go see the movie, they make that change seem justified. She's absolutely fantastic in this movie. I cannot undersell how good she is. I don't think I've seen her anywhere else before. I know she's done a few other roles, and she's been quite good in those as well. Even up to sort of adult movie-going folk. Her performance is actually up to scratch. It's up to that sort of standard in this kid's movie. Otherwise, it's like G-rated Indiana Jones, without the guns, without the violence, anything like that. So if you have kids, this is a really good choice for you guys to go see.
And you also watched another movie this week, which was
I Am Mother, which is on the other end of the sort of intellectual spectrum from Dora. Because I Am Mother is now on Netflix, what I did was I watched Dora, came back, wrote the review for Dora, then watched I Am Mother straight after that. And the contrast is unbelievable. I Am Mother is absolutely fantastic. I can't recommend it enough for you guys because what it is it's science fiction that's very, very sort of intelligent, but at the same time, it's also a really, really good thriller. And it sort of combines the 2 parts of it very, very well into sort of this one piece. So basically what they've done is they sort of made a bunch of very, really good choices. So they've limited the cast. The cast is only 4 characters. They've had 4 people working in this movie, acting in it. And they're all absolutely fantastic. They have such great sort of chemistry. They play off each other so well. Rose Byrne actually voices the robot. Some of you guys will recognize her from, I think she's been in X-Men.
She's a very versatile actress.
She is, and she really shows it in this movie because I think, sort of when we talk about, films about AI, we have to talk about, 2001 and Ex Machina, all those kinds of movies. What she gets so right in this movie is the sort of monotone robot voice. Because monotone is difficult because what you want to do is you want to act within that, if that makes sense. You want to give it sort of some sort of inflection. You want it to sort of...
It can't be just one pitch. You have to vary the pitch, but then keep it just steady, really steady.
It's a lot more than appears on the surface, if that sort of makes sense. And she does that so well. Daughter, who's played by Clara Rugard, she is also just as good, but she's not afraid of the robot. But because, we have seen so many other AI movies, we are suspicious of the robot straight away. It's not only that the film is aware of that, it actually takes it and uses it. So, it tries to make you sort of very uncomfortable with the sight of, this little girl just pasting stickers on this robot. And we can sort of see there's like flashes of her, being very aggressive, being very angry. And you can see like she is actually like incredibly strong, like inhuman levels of strength.
Thanks to Luke Hawker's physical acting there.
Yeah, obviously he plays the sort of, I think he did the motions of the robot. You put those together, you get this robot that is absolutely, like a very intimidating presence. And that's, even though she's like a carer, and that's like, there's like a sort of mix between those that it does really well. Because you never know whether, to trust the robot, trust Hilary Swank's character. She's also really good in this movie.
So obviously this movie to me has always reminded me of a particular game, which I'm not going to name because it might spoil it for Krishna. So I might just pop on the screen real quick. Would you agree that it kind of gives you a perspective of some story in that game, just as a cool bit?
Let me put it this way. Okay, so you raised that game. Interesting you raised video games. One, for the reason you raised this game, I think, yeah, I did see some of this game in there. The other game that we do have to bring up here is actually Portal. When I was watching I Am Mother, I couldn't help but think that someone in the design team, someone behind making this movie, is actually a really big fan of Portal. If you look at the design of Mother the Robot, I couldn't help but see a little bit of GLaDOS. There's a little bit about testing, which is a big part of Portal. There's a few scenes where Daughter is running around with her jumpsuit tied around her waist, in like a tank top. And I'm like, I can see a little bit of Chell in that. I think that was just sort of a nice little nod, I think. The thing about I Am Mother is that always keeps the audience off balance. And that is absolutely great because, that's what you want a thriller to do. You want it to come at you from unexpected angles and directions, hit you with stuff that if you sort of go back and look at it, you can kind of see it being foreshadowed, but you just sort of, tune it out. And it's really good at doing that. You never know who to trust. And for that reason, you can really relate to Daughter because she's stuck between these two people that one person she doesn't know at all, and one person she thought she knew, but she doesn't actually, as it turns out, know that well. It's all about the twists and how it does, it builds on the story layer by layer. And the ending is absolutely mind-blowing. It's sort of that, it makes it sort of movie that you really have to sort of think about after you've seen it. And, as someone who likes to see original movies in the cinema, original movies, original sci-fi, stuff that's not sequels, reboots, prequels, or whatever that stuff, right? This is proof to me that people are still making movies that are not that. Yeah, so if you guys are looking for like a really original, really good science fiction thriller, it actually is my current top recommendation if you want a movie like that. Anyways, that's all for this week. Next week, we'll hopefully have lots of content to cover from Gamescom and the D23 Expo.
As always, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram in the links below, so you get notified whenever we post new content. And make sure to check out our website, presso2couch.com, for the full versions of the reviews we write. Until next week, bye.
Bye. And as it turns out, we do have some Star Wars news this week. Yay.
That was enthusiastic.
You wanna try that again?
Yay.
You don't sound excited at all. You sounded like a little rabbit. Yay! Yay!
And as it turns out, we do have some oh, fuck, Of course, EA also had the exclusive rights to make... I'm just saying EA.
Yeah.